Good morning. My name is Barbara, and this is my first official YouTube video. Unfortunately, this video is about a pretty heavy topic, and that is miscarriage. I just recently had a miscarriage in February of 2021, so I just wanted to discuss some of the things that I wish I had known before even getting pregnant, on top of some of the things I wish I would have known before and during and after miscarrying. So the first thing I want to talk about is, if you're watching this video because you are currently experiencing a miscarriage, or you are going to be experiencing a miscarriage, I'm so sorry for your loss. My heart goes out to you. I know it's very, very hard, and I hope that some of this information that I give you in this video can help you through this hard time for you and your family. Just reach out to the people that love you, reach out to your support group, and you're gonna get through this. Just know you're gonna get through this. Every storm has its end, okay? Another thing I want to talk about before I really dive into the information is the fact that how common miscarriage actually is. It was actually really comforting to me knowing that this does happen. It happens a lot. It happens more often than people realize. Me and my boyfriend were actually talking and saying, you're lucky if you haven't had one. You're the outlier if you have never had a miscarriage, and it's really sad and it's really unfortunate, but it is your body protecting itself and protecting you from, the genetic material sometimes just does not come together correctly, and that's really what it boils down to. And it's not anyone's fault. There's nothing you could have done. You didn't do anything wrong. It just is what it is. So with that being said, the first thing I want to talk about is being diagnosed with a miscarriage, which I never realized was a thing. I just kind of thought that you one day got your period after being pregnant, and that was a miscarriage, and it kind of cramped, and that was basically it. But I was wrong. The process of being diagnosed with a miscarriage is very, very emotionally draining, and it's very hard on the mother and the father, and if the family knows that you guys are pregnant, it's very hard on them too, just the not knowing what's gonna happen. So there are two basic ways to diagnose a miscarriage. One is an HCG test, and another is an ultrasound. And these things, they'll test these things if you're a high-risk pregnancy, maybe you're a little bit older, maybe you have a thyroid issue, a clotting disorder, something like that. Or maybe you've been having cramping and bleeding, and so they want to test your HCG levels, do an ultrasound. So as far as the HCG levels go, HCG is the pregnancy hormone. That is, whenever you pee on a stick, that is what is being tested for, is HCG levels. So in a perfect world, your HCG should be doubling every 48 to 72 hours. And that's a pretty soft rule. For the most part, as long as your HCG is rising, you're fine. And they don't generally test for HCG. They only do it if you are high risk, have had multiple miscarriages, or are having cramping and bleeding. That's really the main times that they test for this hormone. So again, it should be doubling, and if it's not, that is cause for concern. If it's rising, that's good, but it's still kind of concerning. My levels, whenever I got tested, they were not doubling, they were rising about 40%, which is pretty low, and that's because I was having cramping and some brown spotting. It was pretty concerning. The second method that they'll use is an ultrasound. So we all think of the abdominal ultrasound that they put on your belly, and we think of that as the what an ultrasound is. But there's also a vaginal or an internal ultrasound that they do, and essentially they stick a wand inside of your vagina, and they lube it up, put it in there, and it gives them a more accurate reading. And they'll do this ultrasound if you're very early on, which makes sense because miscarriages are more likely to happen in the first trimester when you are more early on. So depending on what point in your pregnancy you're looking at, they're looking for different things. So if you're very, very early on, they may not see anything. You know, if you're 5-6 weeks, they may not see anything. By about 6 weeks, you should be able to see a yolk sac. And the yolk sac is actually what gives the baby nutrients. So the yolk sac forms first. So you have the actual embryonic sac, which it holds the whole baby. And then you have the yolk sac inside of the embryonic sac, and that gives the baby nutrients and will eventually turn into the placenta, if I'm correct. And then from the yolk sac, it starts out as a thickening on the side of the yolk sac, and that actually turns into the fetal pole, which turns into the baby. So I think at about 6 to 7 weeks, correct me if I'm wrong, you should see a fetal pole, and you should see a yolk sac. So it is concerning if, you know, you have one without the other, or if you can't find either of them at that point, which is what happened to me. I should have been 7 weeks, and I was measuring at 5, and I had been measuring at 5 for about a week or two, and my baby wasn't growing, and my HCG levels were plateauing, which means they were still increasing, but they weren't going to continue to increase, and they weren't increasing as they should. And since we're talking about the HCG levels, something I forgot to mention is the way that they'll test is they'll do a blood draw, and then 48 to 72 hours after that blood draw, they'll do another one to see if your levels are doubling or increasing. So that's the basic way of being diagnosed with a miscarriage. Now, sometimes they will want to give the baby some more time before they say, oh, hey, you're going to miscarry. So, and that's really the hardest part, is the waiting. Sometimes you have to wait 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes you're waiting, you know, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's stressful. It's emotionally draining. As the mother, you're trying to be calm, have positive thoughts, be hopeful, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You're hoping for the best, but you want to prepare yourself, and you want to protect yourself too. So it's a really difficult time being diagnosed with a miscarriage. Later on my channel, I will get into my personal miscarriage story, but for now, I just kind of want to stick to just information purely. So that's the first thing. Once you're diagnosed with a miscarriage, you have basically 2 to 3 options. So the first one is you can just wait to spontaneously get rid of the baby. And that can take, it can take a couple days, it can take a week, it can take a month. It just really, really depends on your body, depends on how far along you are, it depends on it just is person to person, and it really just depends. The second option is you can take medication. There are 2 different medications that they'll give you. More than likely, the first one is mifepristone, and this one will help to expel the baby. And the second one is misoprostol, and this one will help to get rid of any other contents in the uterus. And both of these, correct me if I'm wrong, make the uterus contract, which will help expel all of the contents. And I'll get into those medications a little more in a minute. The third option is you can have a DNC, which stands for dilation and curettage, which basically means they put you under anesthesia. I don't believe it's general anesthesia. I think you're just really heavily sedated, which means that they make you very, very sleepy and very, very high, essentially. And they take you to the operating room, and they dilate your cervix with they start out with like these small ones, and then they make their way bigger until they can fit in the instruments into your cervix to get into your uterus. And once they do that, then they just basically scrape and or suction anything out that's in there. And that method is usually used if you're a little later on in your pregnancy. So as far as the medications go, I chose to take the medications, and they made me very, very sick. I wish that I had not had taken them, but at the time when I realized what was happening, it was 4 a.m. I was emotionally distressed. I just wanted it to be over already after weeks of just, emotional turmoil, quite literally. So I decided to take the medication, and again, the first one they gave me was the mifepristone. That's right? Yeah, mifepristone. And they gave that to me at 4 a.m. that morning, and the next day at about 10 a.m, I got very, very sick, to the point that I couldn't stand up. I was so dizzy. I thought I needed to throw up, but I couldn't throw up because I couldn't sit up. I just felt horrible, and I felt like I was possibly bleeding out internally. That's how awful I felt. So if you choose to take that medication, just know you may feel very, very sick from it. Not everybody feels like that. That could just be my reaction, and could just be my reaction to that my body had to it. Everybody is different. But if you take that medication and you get very, very nauseous, have diarrhea, if you're very, very dizzy and it persists for more than 24 hours, then go to the doctor, then go to the hospital. If not, and I'm not a doctor, take this all with a grain of salt. This is just what I was told and my experience. So what happens is you take the mifepristone, and then 24 to 48 hours later, you take the misoprostol. And the misoprostol made me cramp a lot, but it didn't make me sick like the first medication did. So, I think that's pretty much all I need to talk about as far as the medications and actually, expelling the baby, I guess, for lack of better terminology. I hate talking like that because it just sounds so robotic and so mean. It's like, to me personally, that was my baby, and I loved that baby, and I don't like talking about it like that, but that's just me. So the next portion I want to talk about is what to do when you're actually having a miscarriage, which is the hardest part. So let's see. So for me and my personal experience, it was, let me backtrack a little bit. So they tell you that a miscarriage is basically like a heavy period, which for many and most women it is. It's just a heavy period. You just kind of have to get through it. There's a lot of cramping. Some women cramp more than others. Some women say it's like really, really bad period cramps. Some people barely get any cramps. So just know everybody's body is different. So they told me it would be like a heavy period. What they didn't tell me was that you're essentially having a mini birth. And I didn't realize this. I didn't even think about it because it just didn't cross my mind. I asked what it would be like, and they said you'll have some cramping and it'll be like a heavy period. I didn't realize that the actual baby was going to come out into the toilet. And so I was only, again, measuring at 5 weeks, so it was very, very small, there was nothing in there. It was just a sac. But I didn't realize that that was going to come out of me. So if you're going through this, or if you are going to go through this, just be prepared that you will. What happened for me was I went to the bathroom to pee, and I wiped, and there was like this little sack, and I freaked out and I dropped it in the toilet, and then I looked at it, and it was the baby, essentially. So just be prepared for that. Everyone's, again, experience is different. Maybe you won't even know that it's happening. I know that for me, immediately after getting rid of that, again, for lack of a better term, I felt like my body felt relieved. Like it felt like it got rid of what it needed to get rid of, and I felt relieved. I didn't feel pregnant anymore. I mean, I didn't really feel pregnant in the first place for a while, but I really didn't feel pregnant after that. So just be aware of that. Also be aware that it may not be like a heavy period. Mine was not like a heavy period whatsoever. Mine was just brown. It was all just brown blood, old brown blood. So, you know, everybody's body is different. Maybe you'll have a heavy period. Maybe yours will be brown. You just don't really know. Just be prepared for that. The next thing I want to talk about is how to take care of yourself during a miscarriage. Excuse me. The first thing I want to talk about is vitamins. I continued to take my prenatal vitamin until my miscarriage was finished. It took me about less than a week, and then I went back to my regular multivitamin because you shouldn't take your prenatal vitamins if you're not pregnant, because the levels in them are so high that your body can't metabolize them. So if you are continuing to take your prenatal vitamin, your urine may turn like neon yellow, which is what happened to me, and that's why I decided to stop taking them. But continue to take your vitamins. It's really important that you still take care of yourself. Make sure you're getting nutrients. Your body is going through a lot right now. Your body is stressed. Your body is trying to get rid of something, which sounds really horrible, but it is. So just make sure you're eating, make sure you're drinking plenty of water, and make sure you're taking your vitamins and taking care of yourself physically. You need to rest. You need to do things that will at least try to make you happy. Try to ease some stress. Try coloring. If you like to draw, put on a good movie, and just be with the people that you love. You know, call on your support system. Have them come over. Have them come over and watch movies with you, or just be with you. If you just need someone to be there with you while you cry, have someone just be there with you while you cry. Just make sure that you're taking care of your body, because your body is going through so much right now, and it needs to be taken care of, just like you need to be taken care of mentally and spiritually during this time. So another thing, make sure that you're wearing pads. Obviously, you don't want to be putting anything into your vagina during this time, so just wear pads. If you do have a heavy period, if it is like a heavy period for you, just make sure that you're not saturating, completely soaking one pad in 1 hour. You need to go to the doctor and seek medical attention, because you may be bleeding a little bit too much. And if you feel like something's wrong, go in. You know, that's what medical and health professionals are there for. They're there to help you. So another thing you want to avoid, aside from the tampons, is heavy lifting or overly exerting yourself. You really don't want to be exercising, working out, again, lifting anything that's really, really heavy, because you are bleeding. It may make you very lightheaded and just sick. You know, you need to take this time to rest your body, rest your mind. I'm sure that this is very emotionally draining. Get some sleep. You know, you need to take care of yourself. If you have the luxury of calling out of work, call out of work. Take a week off of work. And if you need to, call and ask your doctor and see if they're willing to write you a doctor's note for a week off, because you need it. Your body needs it. Your mind needs it. Your spirit needs it. You need to rest and mourn and take care of yourself. Another thing that I wish I would have known is pain control. So Tylenol. Tylenol is really, really good for the cramping. I tried to do a heating pad to help with the cramping, but it just didn't help. It made my cramps worse. Literally, just like getting in the fetal position was really the only thing that helped, and laying on my side and turning my, crunching up into a little ball almost. That's really what helps me. The Tylenol helps, but some women really, really like the heating pads, and they say that helps them a lot. So just to reiterate, vitamins, hydration, nutrition, rest, sleep, spend time with your family, get support, spend time with your loved ones, color, do things that will relax you, Stay laying down, no heavy lifting, no exercising, relax. Tylenol, heating pads, all of these things will help you through this, will help you through the pain, will help you, refurbish, almost, for lack of a better word, again. So the next thing I want to talk about is during this time, you're going to be very, very sad. Obviously, very sad. You're going to be mourning the loss of your child, mourning so many things, the what ifs, the what could have beens, the why, all of these different things you're going to be going through in your head. So I just wanted to go through the 5 stages of grief. Something to know about this is you don't have to go through all 5 of these stages in consecutively. It doesn't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go 2, 3, 5, 1, 4. It's everybody is different, and sometimes you'll go through all 5 of them and you'll start back at the beginning and go through them again. And everybody, grieves differently. Everybody needs more time. Everybody deals with things differently. So just be kind to yourself and be kind to your partner. So 5 stages of grief. The first stage is, denial. So this will look like, this can't be happening to me, or no, everything's fine, the baby's fine, or, well, maybe everything will work out, or maybe they're wrong, maybe I'll go back in 2 weeks and everything will be fine. And that's what denial looks like, and that is generally the first stage. Second stage is anger, and this will look like, why did this have to happen to me? Why is God punishing me? Why does everything bad have to happen to me? It's my husband's fault, or my boyfriend's fault because he had me pick up that box, or because he was stressing me out, or, all kinds of different, anger comes out in all kinds of different ways. So that's the second stage. So far we have denial, and then we have anger. The third one is bargaining. So this will look like, God, if you just save this baby and let this baby be born, I promise you that I will never say another cuss word in my entire life. I promise you that I will go to church every Sunday. That's what bargaining will look like. Fourth one, depression, sadness. I think that one basically speaks for itself. Depression comes out differently in every person. Some people just want to curl up in a ball and not do anything. Some people want to eat everything. Some people don't eat at all. Some people don't want to take part in any activities. It just depends on you, your personality, and the way that you handle things. So far we have denial, anger, bargaining, and depression. And then the last one is acceptance, which again kind of speaks for itself. You finally have accepted what is going on, what is happening, or what is going to happen. And sometimes you get all the way to acceptance and you say, you know what, actually I'm pretty pissed off still. I'm going back to anger, and I'm mad at God this time, and he's mean and whatever. And then you'll go back to acceptance, and then you'll be sad again, and you'll be back into the depression phase, and then you'll go back into acceptance. It just depends. So just be aware that these are normal emotions. It's normal to feel this way. What you're going through is very, very unfortunate, and you are mourning still. Another thing I want to touch on with the mourning and the grieving is that remember your partner. Your partner is going through this too. The father is also going through this with you. Yes, it may be your body that's going through it, but he's right there with you, and he should be right there with you. If he has the luxury of calling out for a day from work to be with you, he should do so and just be together and just be sad together. Sometimes it's just nice to be sad together so you can get through it together. So don't forget to check up on him. Ask him if he's okay. Ask him if he needs anything. Ask him if there's anything that you can do. Ask him how he's feeling, you know, and he should be asking you the same thing. Just it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street, you know. You both should be there for each other. Another thing I want to talk about as far as grieving is I guess how to get your emotions out and healthy ways to get your emotions out. That's the best way I can say it. Depending on how far along you were, maybe you were able to have an ultrasound and you were able to see the baby. You know, maybe make a shadow box with something that you bought for the baby, or maybe buy something for the baby and make a shadow box in to remember the baby. Maybe plant a tree, do something in remembrance and in honor of this baby and this baby's life. These are all things that you can do to kind of get some closure for what was lost and what could have been. And the last thing I really want to talk about is what to do after. After, you know, you've miscarried, you're done with that part, but, you know, what do you do now? What should you do now? So the first thing, going back to grieving, is there's no timeline on how long it will take to get over it. Some people, it takes them a short time. Some people, it takes them months, and it just depends on you. It depends also, probably really depends on how far along you were, and, you know, very, very many factors. So just be kind to yourself. You should probably go see your primary care or your OBGYN, and they may want to do an ultrasound just to make sure you did truly get rid of everything out of your uterus, because if not, that could cause an infection and you would have a whole other list of problems because of it. So another thing is make sure you go back to your regular vitamins so you don't basically overdose on vitamins. 3 things that I think are pretty important to touch on are: 1, when you can have sex again; 2, when you can try to have a baby again; and 3, when your cycle will go back to normal. So you can have sex again, based on my research and from what my doctors have told me, 2 to 3 weeks after completing a miscarriage. Be careful when you have sex, because you can get pregnant immediately after having a miscarriage. So if you don't want that, make sure that you're using protection, some sort of protection. Some people say that you're more fertile after having a miscarriage. There's really no evidence to back that up as far as I've seen, but just be aware. So that's the first question. Second is, when can you try again? So the FDA recommends 6 months. Doctors recommend 3 months, but some doctors recommend 3 months. There is no real research that shows that waiting longer prevents miscarriage in the future. There's actually some research that is not verified, but that may show that if you get pregnant again within 3 months of a miscarriage, you may have a higher chance of not miscarrying again. And they believe it may be because your body was primed by the first pregnancy, so it's more ready and prepared to have a second one. So me personally, I miscarried in February, so we're taking March off, and then we're going to try again in April or May. So that's the second question. The third one is, when will your cycle go back to normal? 4 to 6 weeks, you'll get your next period. And after that, it should go back to normal. Some people, it takes months to get back on a normal cycle, and some people, it happens immediately. Again, it's one of those things that's just person to person, and it really just depends. You just really don't know. And that's one of the things that sucks about this, is you just don't know until you know. So I hope that this video answered any questions that you may have, or gave you some tools So I hope that this video was educational. I hope that it gave you some information on the process of a miscarriage, the diagnosis, what to do before, during, and after, coping mechanisms. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments and I will be sure to answer them to the best of my ability. I plan to do my miscarriage story in the future, and I also plan to do my journey to a healthy pregnancy, which hopefully the next one is healthy. And I think that'll do it for this video, and I think that'll do it for me. Alrighty.